Alright, we're back again, folks. This is part 4 in our series creating this memory game, and this time in our previous part we programmed the choose function. So we got the choose function ready to run, but our program still isn't going because we need to write some more code. And this time we're going to move on to our check function. So just a quick look at what the check function is meant to do in pseudocode. When it runs, we want to firstly stop the timer because we want to stop our cards from being turned back over. We want to make a judgment as to whether there's been a match. We need to add 1 to the number of attempts variable we're using to count how many goes it's taking the player to get all of the matches. And we want to display that number of attempts down here in our number of attempts counter. And then we want to use an if block and an if else block with a nested if block included here. But for our first condition, we need to check, is our first choice the same as our second choice? So are they matched? So in other words, has there been a match? Has the player chosen 2 cards that are the same? If so, we want to add 1 to our matches because we need to know we've got 6 possible matches that we can make. We need to know how close we're getting to all of those being chosen. We will need to set our picks variable back to 0 so that our choose function can operate on 2 new picks if all of the matches haven't been chosen. And then we want to run a nested if statement here that's going to check, alright, so we've found a new match here, but have we found all of the matches? Have all 6 of our matches been found? If they have, we want to show an alert and output how many attempts it took the player to find all of the matches. If our first choice and our second choice aren't the same, obviously that means there hasn't been a match found. Then we want to turn the cards back over, turn the first and second cards back over, so we're seeing the blue back face again. Again, set our picks variable back to 0 to allow our player to then go and choose 2 more cards to try and make another match. And when they click on another card after our check function completes, then that will initiate the choose function again, which will in turn call this check function. So that's basically our code that we want to make happen. So in terms of implementing that, obviously our first thing that we need to do, we're going to actually need to use a variable that is going to store our back card image, so our blue image. So I'm going to load our images.blank card into a variable called back card, so that we can use that variable to turn our card over. That doesn't need to be a global variable because it's only going to be used by the check function. So we can save a little bit of memory by declaring that one in this variable. Stopping our timer, fairly easy. Line of code, clear our interval for our timer ID. We'll stop that timer from executing, and we want to add 1 to our number of attempts. So that's fairly easy process of num attempts plus plus. So num attempts is a variable that we haven't yet declared, so we need to make sure we do so. Variable num attempts, and we need to set that to 0 as a starting value. We need to set that to 0 because when num attempts runs, we need something to be able to add it onto, so it's got to be declared as a numeric variable and starting at 0. And we can't declare that inside of our function here, because if we do, num attempts, every time the check function runs, num attempts will be set back to 0. So we need it to be global so that it starts at 0, and all our check function does is continues to add 1 onto that. So the next time check runs, it will be 1 and we'll be adding 1 on, and it will move to 2. So in displaying our number of attempts, we know how to display something in JavaScript, outputting back to our HTML, document.getElementById. Attempts is the name of this div down here that we're outputting that value to, and we're outputting our number of attempts. And then we are ready to enter our if block. So our if block starts with our condition, which is checking is faces, remember is our array, is faces second choice, so the index value of the second choice, the same as, that's what double equals means, the same as our faces.first choice array value. So have we got the same card there? And if we do, then we're going to need to add 1 to matches. We're going to need to set picks back to 0 as per our pseudocode over here. And then we're entering into a nested if statement because we've made a match. Before we can go any further, we want to check, have all of the matches now been found? So we need to check if our matches variable, which by the way, we don't yet have that either. So we used a variable here that we haven't created yet, which needs to be another of our global variables. So we're going to create that matches variable, and we're also going to set it to 0 because obviously when the game starts there have been no matches made. So setting that variable to 0 will allow that to function. So if our matches equals the total number of matches available, so how many matches have been found is equal to the number available, which we know in our current setup is 6, then we want an alert. And our alert message is going to be you won. This little character here, whether you've come across that before, I'm not sure, but /n gives you a new line in an alert box. So it will wrap this next line. It took you however many number of attempts it was, and then we want a new line again and refresh the page to play again, which will give us an OK button on our alert box, and we'll then use our window.location.reload function that will effectively refresh the page and reload our game. It will give us a new set of cards which will actually shuffle and also reset our attempts. So that's going to run if our code, if all of our matches have been found. Our else action then for our original block of code is if no match was found. So if our original condition where first choice is the same as second choice, if that's not true, that's false, the player didn't find a match, we want to turn our images array in our HTML based on whatever our first choice index value was, set the source back to the back card, which is our images.blank, and we want to do the same thing for the second choice as well. So they both get set back to the blank card, and we set our picks back to 0, which will allow the player to go and again choose another card, and as I said before, initiate our choose function again, which will also call our check function when the timer runs. So that's our sort of game loop that we're in at the moment until all of those matches have been made. So we need to spend a little bit of time. If you need to pause the video to make sure you get that code, make sure it's correct. Don't forget to add the new global variables that we added to make this function operate, but your check function is now complete and we're ready to move into the final part of our project, which will be the shuffle function and then getting everything started. So we'll see you back for that.